Alright, welcome to episode 16 of What If Civilization Started Over. I can never say that right. I don't know why I'm so bad. Last episode, the audio cut out, and I did another video to talk about the stuff that happened. So, yeah, I guess we're back now. It wasn't a crazy amount of stuff that happened in the last episode. It was some stuff towards what's going to happen in this episode. However, lots of that build-up kind of already occurred in other episodes, so I wouldn't worry too much. Anyway, yeah, there's some pretty big things that are going to happen in today's episode, so might need to be a bit quick with stuff that I'm doing. First off, though, I want to implement a new alliance because I probably need to do that. So, going over here to China, where we're going to be making an alliance between all of these Chinese monarchies. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 in the Korean country, who's our newest one. This is going to be the Yellow Alliance. I guess also that's the Yellow Sea, but it's mostly because they're all monarchies, and monarchies in this series are yellow, so there's that. There you go, New Alliance, so it might be important in today's episode, but they already kind of had a de facto alliance. Speaking of the Korean country, China is going to force them to colonize or take over the entire remnants of the Korean Peninsula, well, southern bit. So there you go, they also take over this island, whatever that is. Going up north, our good old Baikal nation is going to continue to head south, and at this point getting very close to where China is, which is good, because I mean the trade routes can go the entire way around. However, this country looks so weird. I'm not sure if I really like it all that much, but there you go, China will, do what they're asked to by the Central Asian country. Mainly because the Central Asians are stronger than China, and also this will benefit China as they link up to this country. So if we head over to the trade route map, I found it. That's cool. Let's see where the trade routes get to. They got like I don't know, 60% of the way through this country, maybe 75%, and finally in today's episode we'll be able to get them into the Baikal nation, around south of this lake, and we're going to head right over to the capital here. I guess you go around or you get a boat. I feel like we've probably got to go around. However, they're going to make the trade route go like this, so you have to go quite far towards the capital to actually go along. They're not going to construct a bit like this just because extra money. They like money. China will actually start their own trade route over here in their capital. It goes around along the coast. That maybe actually goes this way, along their coastline, because I mean they're rich enough to do it. I mean they're not like a super rich country, but they're getting there. They're getting up to being a rich country. They also just send it further into the Shandong Peninsula for no obvious reason other than just for a bit of fun, and that's all they're really going to construct. I guess they go over to the border of the Orange team. However, they're not really strong enough and they don't really care enough because it's just a road at this point. It's not connected to anything. As for India, I guess I should probably put major cities on for this. That'd probably be a good idea. They can also expand this bit. They're getting no help from Persia for obvious reasons. The two countries do not like each other very much. India also isn't really going to help any of these southern guys because they're all monarchies now. However, what they will do is send the trade route down to here, and then they send it across their country through all of these cities until it goes up along the coast, and they're going to head it right over to the border of Bengal. So they go, and in Bengal, and Bengal's like the 8th strongest country, so they're able to link it up to their capital. Oh my god, why is there so much trade route stuff in today's episode? I guess just there's a lot of trade routes. This one makes it over to the capital of the Carthaginian country, and also along the northern coast into Algeria. As for this one, down here in southern France, it does just that. It travels across southern France. There you go. I guess it travels on the northern side of the Pyrenees, so it's got kind of big. This trade route is going to head up along the Baltic Sea now, whilst this bit stays more inland. I don't know what these European trade routes are going to be like. They're really strange. But there's kind of just a lot of stuff to do with the alliances in this region. But I guess you could probably actually just link it up along this bit. So they might do that. strange. Anyway, let's leave the trade routes here for today's episode, and let's look at some wars, because that's what you want to look at. Going over to Bulgaria then, the Bulgarian country, they recently got their independence. Nope, come on, man. From the Romans, and they got a lot of land, a lot more land than they did when they were first a country, getting independence from the old green Turkish country, who doesn't currently exist. And they are going to be declaring war on this poor old North Macedonian country. Luckily for the Macedons, they put their capital really far away, so that was a good idea. How the Bulgarians don't really have any issue invading into their country. It's not a strong one. The Bulgarian military actually stronger than you might think. The war just ends when the purple country invades, and I guess now we can get around to the partition of this poor nation. What do they do? What do they do, Bulgaria? This really was not necessary. However, the Bulgarians do not care, and they will take over all of this territory, whilst the purple team takes over these 3 provinces, including the capital city. Let's also fix Bulgaria's border with the Roman country, just by this. There we go. Nice. What's going on there? Cool, so the Bulgarians got some more land. They have a slightly larger empire now. I don't know what's wrong with this city. I don't know what's going on there. But there you go. Macedonia's gone. Greeks are probably happy about that. Going over to... that's the wrong layout. Let's go look at the alliances. Yeah, pretty big alliance here. You know, the HRE still existing. Just doing their own thing, I suppose. However, it's not this country you're focused on. Also, I'd like to point out, just because it might be relevant to the plot later on, not in today's episode, but in the future, if you forgot, these guys all really, really, really hate aristocracies. Which I don't really think about. But France is also an aristocracy, so, I mean, I shouldn't have said I don't think about, but when I was making this country into an aristocracy, it was more just as a way to get them to collapse. I was like, that's a cool way to get them to collapse. But France is also an aristocracy, and now we have the rising French bloc, which includes like Catalonia, all of Italy, Switzerland, and yeah, they really don't like them very much, so we'll see how that evolves. But in France, things are going quite badly, because nobody likes being French anymore. And up in Scotland and other areas of the French Empire, we see some rebellions occur. So rebellion number 1 is this new Scottish one, whilst we have other ones appear around here in Ireland. So we've got one in the eastern side of the island, and we're going to see another one appear in the south. I mean, the French grip on Ireland is very, very small. They don't really have much power over this territory, like at all. We see another rebellion appear in the north of England. Well, I guess this is the border of Scotland, but it's based in northern England. And there's other bits that appear, and I mean, of course, it isn't spreading to France. The actual French territory is quite loyal, except for maybe this southern bit, because there's some other sort of religious stuff going on here. And if you look at come on, man, religion. We can see the Roman religion has spread to this area, whilst there's a lot of blue religion. And at this point here, there's quite a lot of thought about making its own sort of Southern European religion, a new brand of religion, and that's liked by the Spanish and also various groups in France. However, the French don't like it because they like their religion more. Also, I might just shift this country's color, something like this. I know you can't really see that, so maybe we brighten it slightly. There you go. Anyway, so these guys are all rebellions, so we don't really need to use invading colors because they're just trying to take over stuff. And naturally, France is stronger than these alliances. However, France is really unable to take out these countries, and quite quickly they're going to just storm through French territory and just really quickly pick up land. We see another rebellion. Well, I want a kind of bluish color for this, but I don't know what color, what type of blue. Appear based around Liverpool, the city right here. Is that a good? Yeah, I like that blue. And quite quickly, France just collapsing. They're getting money from allies around the other aristocratic nations. I just can't talk apparently. However, that's not really enough. As we see another rebellion take off in East Anglia, and I mean, I'm really doing a bad job at showing the French kind of fighting back against these alliances, but they really can't. They're kind of not able to stop the Irish rebellion, that's for sure. Whilst these ones in England, they're very good on the coast, mainly because some people, these guys, are funding them along the coast by just going all this way. Because they hate the French that much that they're bothered to do that. And then the French just end up having to fall back from their front lines over here, and they just start losing even more and more land. This Bluish rebellion and this Bluish rebellion, and the only thing the French really have going for them is that there's some loyal people down here in the south. So, yeah, let's look at a peace treaty between all these countries. First off, then, I think we might have these areas of Scotland uniting with the old, whatever it's called, country, the old Shetland Islands country, just because I like that shade of green, and it makes sense in my mind. These groups unite. I don't want to cover all these islands on the video. It takes so long. Let's look at provinces then. I think the Scottish can probably get themselves a few more. Just because, why not? So they take these two provinces, and there you go, there's their borders. Going over to this country, it's going to be taking this territory and this stuff around here. But that's about it for them. Going over to the bluish country, I think we can see them expand a bit to the north. They lost a bit of territory over here. Of course, these groups are fighting, which is completely why their borders are changing, not because of provinces and stuff. Because, to be honest, I don't really think they care about provinces. We also finally see this country take over some stuff in Wales. I also need to give them a city, maybe. Do you want to give them a city, or do you just keep them like this? There really should be another city here. That's my thought. But oh well, I guess it's not. France has got the richest part of this country, which is the south. I mean, in real life, southern England is the richest part of the United Kingdom. And it's still true here. I don't really think there's a very easy way to make it not true. It just kind of is. I think that's always going to really happen. I mean, not always. Of course, there's areas that are rich in all parts of the UK. It's a pretty good country. I like it a lot. So there you go. France has collapsed in a way, but their hold over the United Kingdom has collapsed. Over here in Ireland, there's only 3 countries, which is nice. However, there's a lot less development here because it's a lot further away from the French country. So, you know, it's a win-ish situation, I guess. Depends how you look at it. You can look at it positively, I suppose. The Irish kind of split these provinces into thirds, which is nice. Well, between the 3 of them, kind of fairly. We have this bluish country taking all this territory. So the yellow country, they take all this stuff. And then this bit has a big load of deliberation over what to do with this massive province. And in the end, the orange and the yellow countries go to war. And I'm not going to show that war because we're already 13 minutes into this video. However, that's kind of how it ends up looking. Oh, come on. Although, just thinking about it, what we could do is something kind of funny. I like this idea. Let's just say they take over. Yeah, we don't really need to do that. It's not really necessary. I was going to add an exclave, but I don't think it's necessary. So let's look at where capital cities are. The Western Irish country is going to put theirs there. The Southern one put theirs there. Our sort of Northern Irish country is going to put theirs in Belfast. We have the Scottish country moving theirs from the Shetland Islands over to Aberdeen. You put yours in York. Is that York? No, that's Hull. York-ish. Liverpool, of course, and the pinkish one is going to put their capital city in Hull. Great. There we go. So a load of new countries here. Pretty exciting. Cool. Let's probably go over to a different area. Oh, we are going to a different area. Because we need to address what's going on in the Indian subcontinent. What's going on in the Indian subcontinent, you may ask? Well, war. India is at a bad sort of spot. They're surrounded by lots of countries, and with Iranian influence expanding all across southern India, except for this greenish country. Hooray! yeah, India's not very happy. So when a problem arises on the trade route and people just lose their stuff because they're attacked by Iranian people who might be funded by the government just out of spite, India declares war on Persia. And Persia's like, whoa, I kind of thought this was going to happen eventually, but I didn't think yet. And India will pull its entire alliance into the war. I mean, naturally, so will the Persians. But whose alliance is stronger? I mean, India has Bengal, they've got the Greenwich country, and they've also got the North Vietnamese Laos country, I guess. That's probably more accurate. So, turn on the major cities. There's not too many on the Indian border. However, India will kind of stick to this sort of mountainous inland sort of region, which is alright, I guess. Well, it's actually pretty bad. And Iran didn't really have any defenses here. They mostly had them in the south, where the Indians aren't doing a whole load of invasion. And because of that, India is going to be quite successful in the early stage of this war. India will also invade into the Reddish country. I mean, they're the second strongest nation in the world. Also, we're currently in 400 CE, BCE, BCE, AD. I mean, there we go. I just completely lost lost the plot there. However, down here in southern India, there is more success for these guys. They don't do as terribly as the Iranians are doing against the Indians up in the west. As the invasion into this Greenish country, it's just everyone chips in to destroy the Greenish country. In like the third war the Green country's been in against these guys. So yeah, they lose both of their cities except for their capital very quickly. How, they're still surviving, I suppose. The push back against India, it happens kind of gradually, but it does most definitely happen. As forces begin to arrive, pushing into India, as most of India's allies are just not very close to the front lines. So India needs to look for better allies, She had thought about that. As Iran starts closing in, taking over some mountainous regions, although India is still occupying 2 cities, with a lot of their forces concentrated in this city over here. The Red Country still hasn't taken their capital back, and it's actually being held by old people who want to restore the old council of their nation. Not old people, but people who want to restore the old council. Which might have been like 100 years ago, but time doesn't matter in this series. So don't worry, it's fine. Otherwise, though, just these guys are sending loads of troops, and that will help to reimburse the Indian. Am I using that word right? I think I am. The Indian military effort, because Bengal and Laos are some of the most populous countries in this entire series. So India takes all of the red team cities over. Whilst over here in the west, India's going to push up here in the north still. And this is when there's a massive turning point in the war, as the blue Central Asian country, who is, I guess we'll check the power rankings now. Who's currently I saw some words, the 6th strongest nation on Earth, between Caucasia and Rome. They'd probably be stronger than that, if I'm honest. Are they stronger than? I don't know. Probably not. It's a big country though. They will join the war because they, of course, have religious claims on these guys. Actually, not really, but kind of. Well, they mostly just want this bit, and they also just hate the Iranians. People are just mean like that. So they will join the war, and this was something that Persia was not expecting. So with these front lines both being joined up, the Central Asians will actually have a stronger military than they expected. You might remember from the start of the series how I talked about how Central Asia's really not, they don't invest in their military very much. However, with heightening tensions in India, we've invested in it more, and also there's a lot of people here. It's look at the cities. I mean, there's quite a few people, right? They're going to stick to some of these more mountainous regions, whilst they're like, hey India, you're like the most populous nation on Earth. Go throw a load of people at these cities. And India's like, alright, I guess so. So they get the Bengali people to do it instead. Yeah, it wasn't very nice. Iran is really having a terrible time here, and they're kind of afraid that Caucasia might just invade them for these claims on a sort of North Iranian territory. The Central Asians are also getting pretty close to where their religious capital is. Actually, they've taken it already, and they're kind of in a really good mood at this point. They're going to take over this lake, and Iran just needs some sort of way to get past all this stuff that's going on. If only there was a way. If only. Anyway, bad things that are occurring. India's taken over the entire red country, although they're still holding the line further out. Bad things for India. The green country's collapsed. Oh well, they really weren't doing that much. They were just kind of a buffer. However, the front line is holding down here in southern India. The Iranians are still defending their southern coast, which is great, I guess. They haven't actually lost any of their coastline except for coastline on the Caspian Sea. But yeah, it's really not going great for them. We have the Central Asians taking more and more cities. They start to actually push into cities now, and people are fleeing into Mesopotamia or other Gulf countries. Like from the capital, they're all going to this pink country, who's kind of allied with the Indians, but they're also pretty neutral and more Iranian aligned. So Iran is going to do some major diplomatic stuff, and luckily, somebody helped build a trade route all the way around to China. Because you know the really cool thing about China? There's a big monarchist bloc there. So Iran will do two, diplomatic masterpiece sort of things. Number one diplomatic masterpiece. They sign peace with Central Asians, and he does like, hey, could you please not peace out with these guys? And they're like, and they came up with a really cool deal. So what they do is they give them like this city on the border where there's some Central Asian people, and they also give them this bit all the way up to this city and just move some people from that city. However, their favourite bit of the peace treaty is what they do with this city, as they turn that into its own autonomous district. And by autonomous, I mean independent. I don't know why I said autonomous. I always thought the city was further west. However, the Iranians aren't willing to give it up to them because, like, hey, we need the coastline, so no. However, they give up some territory to this. Wow, that's exactly what I meant. Yeah, they give up some territory to this new country, and we have our own sort of theocratic blue team aligned country right there. What is going on with these borders? I don't know. It's not great. There you go, anyway. So these Central Asians I want to fix these borders. You have the power to change these borders for good. Please do. They also take control of this province and then immediately give it to the Central Asians. Well, that's crazy. Who cares? Woohoo. So that was diplomatic masterstroke number one. But what's number two, you may ask? Well, first of all, they push back against the Indians. Like, how are they pushing back against the Indians, you may ask? China joined the war. Uh-oh. So, we see the South Chinese country who recently joined this Chinese bloc invading towards Vietnam, taking back old territorial claims that they possessed, like last episode. But the North Vietnamese Laos sort of country took them over. So they push into here, taking kind of where Hanoi is. And it's not just all of these 5 Chinese countries and Korea, but it's also the brown country who joins the war. And they've done quite literally nothing in this entire series. Nothing. These guys have been so boring. But if you didn't know, then I comment. They're a monarchy, so that's why they're joining this war, and they will invade in towards this city. The great bit is they're very close to the capital of Laos. Another great bit is they can attack Bengal. That's pretty cool. So they take this sort of Thailand area. Oh, actually, they've got the capital in Bangkok anyway. But they take more Thailand stuff, and even get into Myanmar, and yeah, Bengal really isn't having a great time here, as they lose some of their most important territory, and also they've lost a lot of people. This has been a very costly war on Bengal's population, which is one of the largest in the world. I think it's probably like India, then Persia, then maybe Bengal, maybe Mesopotamia, maybe Central Asia. I'm not sure. Anyway, the pink country will surrender. They don't really care enough in this war. We see the revivification of the red country, and they start their invasion into India. And just, I might do the proper peace treaty to this war in the next episode, because it's already 24 minutes long. And if I actually do the peace treaty here, It's going to take forever. So they invade up, and we also see the orange team start its own invasion into India as well. And yeah, lots of Indian council members getting executed. They fled to various parts of the country, and the military just collapsed. There's going to be no one telling them what to do because people are fleeing, which isn't what you want your military generals to do. That's kind of the entire thing they're not meant to do. Flee the country during a war. How will they do that? So that's great. And Iran is just going to be able to start invading towards these cities up here in the north. They get around to the mountains and just trap a load of people in the mountains. The trade route stuff is impeded upon, and the capital's kind of surrounded by Iranian forces that are loopholing around them. Not loopholing, but circling them. The red team's military, fueled by military people from other areas of southern India, will surround the capital, and with no support getting to the capital, they will have to agree to peace. So, I guess what I'm going to do is take a picture of this. And in the next episode, you will see the borders after the war. There you go. But yeah, that was today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. I know maybe it's not very popular, like me not doing the peace treaty, but it's a cool thing to be excited for in the next episode. Iran has given up a tiny bit of territory to this new blue religion country. Although, on the map it doesn't show it as being blue religion, but I don't really put enough detail in this. And it's also the capital of the blue religion, so they kind of want that back. However, the blue team doesn't own it, so that's interesting. France also collapsed, and we saw some other stuff. Not France, but their British claims did. Except for Wessex, they've still got that. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you again next time. Goodbye, and have a nice day.